I want to talk to you about some cool things. Not some new things, but some old things. Uh, Recently, just from stuff I've been seeing on YouTube and things that I've been seeing, around on other media, has made me consider pulling out some old radios of mine. And you say, radios? What kind of radios? Old. I got some handheld CB radios. Look at that antenna on that booger, man. You talk about an antenna. Ooh. But you know what? This thing right here is like 4 watts. And it really does a good job. And talking about alternative types of communication, just especially recently, seeing the earthquakes that are happening around the world, and as some of you know, I live on the New Madrid Fault. We're not far here from Reelfoot Lake, where a very bad earthquake happened in the winter of 1811 and 1812. This area was very sparsely populated back then, thank goodness. But the earthquake was so violent here that it actually rang church bells in Boston. It also caused the ground to subside, and believe it or not, the Mississippi River ran 2 directions for almost a day, filling in the hole. And that hole is what we now have as Reelfoot Lake. It is like the biggest natural fishery in the United States. It's all total bayous and everything else is 16,000 acres, I think. And it is a really, really neat lake. If you haven't seen it, you need to go one time in your life. Watch out for the cottonmouths. And other than that, watch out for the heat and humidity. If you come in the cooler parts of the year, there's good crappie fishing, good brim fishing in the summer, even decent bass fishing. But what I'm here to talk to you about today is alternate types of communication. Now, it's a handheld 40-channel CB. This is not the first radio I got. I actually got this one from somebody used. They may have given it to me. I don't really remember. But this is a 40-channel channel selectors on top. The first experience I had with these are these radios. Now, you may recognize these if you watch the show Stranger Things. This is the radio they use. And this is a 3-watt handheld. Also got a whopping antenna on it. A 3-watt handheld 3-channel CB radio. Now, let me reach over here and grab my screwdriver. Now, this uses crystals for your transmit and receive. And you say, oh, Jamie, that sounds terribly complicated. Listen, there are 2 screws that you pull out of here, one here and one here. And this front will lift off. And you see right here, this row that look like transistors. They're really radio crystals. And you have a receive and a transmit for each channel. Not very complicated. These are simple. These are durable. And I recommend, obviously they don't make them anymore. I recommend if you find any on the internet or at the Goodwill store, buy them. You can make them work. They came from the store with only the A channel right here. But you could plug in those transmit and receive crystals, and you could get as many as 3 Citizen Band. Now, you say, Jamie, why in the world did you buy these back in the 90s? And I did. I bought them. No, back in the 80s. I'm sorry. Whether you know it or not, I was a licensed private investigator. And at times I had to have people help me. And at times we had to have some type of communication. Well, you know, people didn't carry a phone in their pocket back in the 80s. So these are what we would use. You'll even notice where I put that little headphone jack in there back in the day, because we didn't want, if we were surveilling somebody or something like that, we obviously didn't want our speaker being used. So I put that little, it's a normally closed switch. When you plug it into it, it opens the line to the speaker and goes into a headphone. And they came in real handy. Now you'll notice these old walkie-talkies have a strip of metal along the sides. That is because they were designed to have you as part of the grounding plane. So they won't work with a handheld microphone. So don't even try to rig anything up, because your hand, your head, and your face are all a part of the grounding plane for these radios. They work on AA batteries. They also have this handy little charging port here. Not a charging port, but a power port. The charging port is if you want to use rechargeable AA batteries. Now, back in the day, if you use rechargeable batteries, you had to use 10 of them. So you'll find these things have a, let me find one. I don't know if I got one out or not. Here, I know I got one in this one. These things came with 2 spacers. See that spacer? All it does is take the place of a AA battery. So if you're using regular alkaline AA batteries, you only had to use 8. But if you were using rechargeables, you had to use 10, because they were actually only 1.25 volts apiece. Now, I think our rechargeables now will do the full output of a regular AA battery, but here's the kicker. Don't use this to charge them. Use the charger that came with your radio or with your batteries, because this was specifically made for the old dry cell rechargeables, and they may damage the new modern, like lithium ion rechargeables. So don't use that charging port to charge your batteries. Now, you say, well, what channels do you got on here? Well, they all came with channel 14. I have, at one time I had channel 14, channel 9, or channel 19, and then channel 9, which was the emergency radio channel. Y'all, I don't even know if anybody monitors channel 9 for emergencies anymore. I don't know. But that's beside the point. I have now converted these where this particular radio has channel 14 and channel 38. In the middle, it has channel 19, and I keep them written right here on the bottom. This one has 14, 38, and in the middle, channel 9. Just in case somebody's monitoring the emergency channel. What I frequently do with this one that has channel 19 in it, I just throw it under the seat of my truck, along with the cigarette lighter power adapter. And if I get in a traffic jam and I want to know what's going on, I just crack my window a little bit, run this antenna out, and put it on channel B, which is channel 19. And, you know, I can hear in a minute from the truck drivers what's got the hold up, and if I need to get off the interstate at the next opportunity, or if I need to one particular lane or the other I need to get in. You say, Jamie, well, where can I get those crystals? Now, got good news. I got a whole bag full of them. Each one comes with a transmit and receive crystal, and I've got some that are some pairs. In other words, if you have a pair of these walkie-talkies and you want to add a channel to each so that you have one more option of talking on, I have some pairs. I'll probably let them go for like the pairs for $40. Single channels, if you want to add them, say you've got an old mobile unit sitting around and you just want some channel other than 14, I have single pairs that I'm going to let go for probably, I don't know, $20 a piece. And it'll give you one more option to talk on. And what I also have here, and I bought these a little later, I'm going to guess these are in the 90s. And they are, I'm going to hook some power to them. Because to be honest with you, I haven't used these in a long time. I've got one that I know has a bad speaker. I took it apart and it had some corrosion in there. And I don't know where it would have corrosion. It must have been from the early days when I bought it, because I haven't had batteries in these in years. I just have kept them just kind of stuck away somewhere. But must have had a battery leak way back in the day, because it had some serious corrosion inside the radio. Of course, I used my spray deoxyate and cleaned all that out and brushed that circuit board off pretty good. And let me turn our power supply on here. There we go. All right, right now it's on channel 33. These are 40 channel CBs. I'm not sure of the watts. Believe it or not, I don't have my glasses here with me, or I could look and tell you what the watts are. But they have a transmit button, and they have a battery low button, so if your batteries are getting low. And this is digital. I can change the channels just by pushing the button here on the side. You'll notice no metal sides. They came, I guess they improved beyond using your hands and face as a grounding panel or grounding plane. These have a very small, like, rubber ducky antenna. And I'm going to be honest with you, I can't remember that I used them enough to even remember how far they'll talk. I can't even remember the range, but obviously line of sight, certainly. You know, out to a couple miles, I would think. But I have a total of 5 handheld CBs, and these are 40 channel. And I trust this long antenna much more than I do this little rubber ducky thing. I don't know, I may be shocked, I may use it and may be surprised. But and all of them have an external power supply. I do have a speaker ordered for this one. You'll notice I put a little piece of tape on the back saying needs a speaker. The speaker I left in there, but I checked the continuity and the speaker is not working. I hooked a old little earphone to the speaker line, and it works great. So the speaker's getting power, the speaker's just not working. And I'm gonna guess because the terminals on the speaker were corroded pretty bad. I cleaned those off, got it ready, and ordered a speaker for this on eBay. And I think it was $8 or something. So these things are definitely serviceable and they are usable. And having a CB, I imagine there are a lot of homes around the country that still have CDs like in the garage, that people don't use anymore. Now, of course, you want to get an antenna that matches, so your SWR is right. You also need to check, make sure your mic works, everything transmit. But I think this is a neat option to use around the house, around the farm. Just not a lot of people are on CBs now. Back in the day, man, you couldn't hardly count on for communication because so many people on there flapping their jaws. But now, man, I've listened around here, and other than a guy I picked up on a skip the other night that sounded like he was in my living room, and he was from North Carolina, and I picked him up here in West Tennessee on this. So he's at least 400 or 500 miles away, and the skip was hitting him just perfect. Of course, he had a really big radio, and had a big antenna and amplifier on. I mean, he was into it pretty big time. But pretty amazing stuff, man. And it will keep you in touch with friends and family. All these recent earthquakes have just got me to thinking. So I actually keep these most of the time in a, for lack of a better term, a Faraday cage. And what I have is a screen that I had made out of PVC pipe and covered it with metal window screen. And it sits on a platform of metal window screen. And then I have a metal garbage can inside that I put all this stuff in, and then put the lid on the metal garbage can, and then put the top of the Faraday cage I made right over that. So, if we have an EMP from a solar flare or from a Chinese balloon that decides to set off a thermonuclear warhead in our upper atmosphere and take out our whole electrical grid, I'm going to be able to talk to folks, okay? If we have an earthquake, and I don't have to tell you that if we have one here on this fault, that it's going to be a big one, because we have tremors very, very rarely do we have tremors. So I'm going to assume the pressure is building up. And I will say that, let me see, when's the last time I looked? In September, at the end of September, I looked, and as far as measurable earthquakes along the New Madrid Fault, we had about 35 within about 100-mile radius of us. So it's not a question of if, it's a question of when. And I just have decided that I want to have a way to communicate with my neighbors and my family, so we can help take care of each other. And that's what a community is. I tell people all the time, don't build a bunker, build a community. You need a network of good friends and neighbors that you love and that love you, and you vow to each other that you're not going to let each other go hungry or go without water, and you take care of each other. That's what we're here for. And I also have alternate power sources. This is an EcoFlow River. I think this is called, with this extra battery on it, yeah, Eco River Max, because I've got the additional battery attached to the bottom of it. And really good. I don't know, can you see the LED? So I try to keep this charged and keep it handy. And boy, I tell you, it just comes in so handy. You got plug-in tools. I've set it on the table in the kitchen when I want to use a soldering iron, and we just don't have, like, you know, my soldering iron's only got like a 6-foot cable. And if I have to solder something at home, I'll just set this up in the middle of the table. It has, as you probably saw, it has 12 volt. It has USB. It has a USB-C port, which of course gives you more watts. It has 110 volt, 3 of them down here. And depending on the thing, even though it's a 600, this River is 600 watts. I have run things that take 1,000 watts to run, because of the way this is set up. You lose a little voltage, but you can gain some wattage by reconfiguring itself as you're running something. So old school appliances and things that may pull more than 600 watts will still run on this. I've used a hot plate on this, and you know, the hot plate pulls like 1,100 watts when you turn it on high, and it will actually run that hot plate. Now, it doesn't run, you can't get it red like you can if you plug it into the wall, but you can boil water in 6 or 7 minutes, you know. So, pretty neat thing. I just wanted to throw this in because I've been wanting to do it for a minute, and just got all these out last week and started going through them and troubleshooting. Like I say, I found a bad receiving crystal in this one, and ordered it off the internet. And then I think I gave $20 for that pair of crystals. And then I saw somebody that had a lot of 2 dozen of them for whatever the cost was, and it was a much better deal. So I thought, hey, you know what? I can fill both radios up with channels that I can use. So I just ordered the whole lot from him. And I'm not greedy, so I will, if anybody needs one, let me know. And if you see these radios, believe it or not, they're starting to sell again, simply because of the show Stranger Things, because that's the radio they use, you know. Of course, on Stranger Things, they talk incredible distances and inside shopping malls and all kind of crazy things. But you may not get that kind of reception. But I do remember that these two specifically, when I was using them as part of my work as a private investigator, and I put the headphone jacks in each one here on this side. I don't know how I found enough spare room in that case, but I was able to fit them in that one particular spot right there. And I do remember that they talked a pretty good ways, and especially if you were line of sight, you know. And you know how that private investigation work is. I'm hiding in the bushes on one side of the house, and somebody's hiding in the bushes down the block. Tell me when a person's coming or going, or just different things like that. And they worked really good for that. I was impressed by them very much. And I have about the same faith in this one. Now, these General Electrics, I haven't used enough to know, but they're 40 channels, and I'm quite certain, you know, from at a reasonable distance, line of sight, they'll work just fine. So look for these things in Goodwill stores, at garage sales. Old CB radios, you can find them in garage sales sometimes for $3 or $4, and they'll have the antenna with it. You know, they'll just where somebody had pulled it off their car 20 years ago and it's set on a shelf in the garage. Snatch them up, get them out, get them working, and let's get to talking on CB again. I think it was a pretty cool deal back in the day. So, hey, appreciate y'all checking in, and I'll be talking to you later.